Hello and welcome to the Crone Codes, a gathering place for women of all ages and all stages to remember your worth, your purpose, and your power. I'm your host, the creator and resident crone, Joan Advent. Welcome to the Crone Codes. I am Joan, the creator, the host, and the resident crone, and I am so delighted to welcome Jenn Koch of Stylegasm to join me today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We are going to have a very juicy time together. I know it. Because in the time that I have come to know and experience Jenn, I'm telling you, some things from deep within my core have been like emerging and bubbling up to the surface, all good things. And so I anticipate this will be juicy and transformative for you as well, our dear listener. So we're going to start with Jenn's bio. And what I like to do in this process is actually to invite everyone to close their eyes and to allow what I read to wash over you and to just sense like what are the Crone codes that Jenn is already carrying or expressing as we receive them through this bio. So here we go. Jenn Koch is the founder of Stylegasm and known for her alter ego, the Style Dominatrix. Jenn is a world traveler known for her expressive looks, her work of merging style, spirituality, and play as a catalyst for transformation by unleashing your alter ego. And she recently published her first book, Radiant. So why are you still single? Welcome, Jenn.
Thank you. What a beautiful way to receive my bio. Wow, who is this person?
I know. So often it's this sort of perfunctory, we're
Mhm.
going to get through it. But I feel like what we put into words about who we are, perhaps similar to how we adorn ourselves with our style, really expresses so much of who we are and what we carry.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to dive into the style dominatrix and this whole concept of alter ego. Can you
hmm
just unpack that for us a little bit? Or
Yeah, definitely. So my alter ego came through me actually very spontaneously without me even looking for her. I was in a period of my business where I felt very shut down creatively. I was working with some different coaches and branding person who had ideas about how I needed to show up in my brand. And I ended up walking away from all of that. And I ended up finding this side of me, it's like this it was this period where I was figuring out what my identity is and what my identity is in my brand. And I was doing work with a client. We were actually in DC and we had styled this photo shoot that we were doing on the streets. And her boyfriend was a photographer. So it was kind of like spontaneous that we were gonna, from what we created, just go out and shoot. And she used to be in BDSM just lightly, playfully. And so she had some like, whips and chokers. And I had created this outfit of hers, which was I took a corset and then I put this like voluminous skirt and this top hat and these like red gloves. And it was actually even though it was it was a little bit provocative, but it was actually like really elegant how it was all styled together. And we had like a whip and we were just walking down in DC and I was just like playing like bad client and I'm the style dominatrix. And it just stuck. I wasn't planning to say that, and it just stuck. And I was in this period of like figuring out how am I going to show up in my brand. And it was like, I really just felt in that there's a side of me that I wanted to work with creatives. I wanted to bring boldness. I wanted to have these radical ideas that I would bring to life. And so I ended up stepping into becoming the style dominatrix as my alter ego. And I've actually even gone to dominatrix school. Me myself, I say for me, in a way, it's more of a creative metaphor. I don't actually whip my clients. I actually don't like exerting pain on people, but I do love, I love chokers and leather, and I love taking some of that element of that and helping people. There's so many metaphors around taking that pain and our shame and actually transforming it into something that we receive pleasure from, and how we can do that in style. So really through this journey that I've taken myself on, realizing that that has been like the gold, and that's actually what has been the evolution of me helping other people now find their alter egos and their new creative expression to step into a side of them that has been repressed and that just wants to play and be more expressed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm really struck by just the whole concept of alter ego, because we have the
Yeah.
ego of who we,
Mm,
like our personality and who we think of ourselves as, who we move
mm,
through the world as, but the sense of an alter ego. So, like
mm.
alternative ego
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
alternative dimension of who we are.
Mm, mm,
And interestingly, I have done some studying recently with someone who teaches about dominance and submissives and that whole
mm,
dynamic. And the way that she describes it is that the dominatrix, is really the one who is the leader and takes the lead
mm,
and does a very careful, kind of curated job of putting together pieces that the person in the more submissive role can really
mm,
enjoy and like
mm,
go along for the ride, surrender and go along for the
mm,
ride. So less
mm,
so emphasis on any of the pain component, although I know for
mm,
people that can be a turn
mhm,
on, but
mhm,
just that sense, and that's part of what I hear you
mhm.
describing in your own alter
Yeah.
ego, is it is a part of you that's coming forward to
Mhm,
take charge or to assert your leadership or your
mhm,
authority or your expertise. Is
mhm.
that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think partly when I was in that beginning of her just emerging of there was a period I felt like clients just wanted a personal shopper and they just wanted to tell me what it is that they wanted and I would go find it and scour the internet and stores and then to actually be like, no, I'm actually a creative genius. I actually have visions for people greater than they can have for themselves. And I've learned so much in the dominatrix school, and that, I mean, really a dominatrix is of like deep, deep service to her clients. And there's so much that goes into it about what is it that the client wants. And I think that's a lot of the misconception as well with dominatrix is like it doesn't have to be about sex and it doesn't have to be aggressive. Like there's dominatrixes that have a mother energy and will hug grown men for hours, or there can be like a kind of a cutesy energy about a dominatrix. There's so many different ways that it can look like. But yeah, but part of it, yeah, but the dominatrix really being there to like hold that energy for the submissive to be able to like relax into it and to submit themselves in a scene.
Surrender, yes,
Hmm.
to really
Hmm.
have a safe container to
Hmm.
surrender.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and so tell me about some of your clients' alter egos or how that emergence
Mm,
occurs.
yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, actually one of the first ones with my client who you've met, who was at my book event, Eve, beautiful Korean artist, Korean American artist. We ended up developing when she started working with me, it was this whole alter ego of the wealthy artist.
Mhm.
And, as an artist, it takes so much as far as believing in yourself and charging for your work and all just the rejection. And so part of it was her just owning the energy of I am a wealthy artist even before you see it come to life. It's almost like you become that energy and then you become a match to it. So that was really fun. We ended up getting this really wild. It's kind of like a cape. It's this like blue top that has this really long train in the back. So that was really fun. Actually, I took for my launch of my alter ego, I had two of my clients come with me. I had another client who had this ranch in Wimberley, Texas, where they had wild animals and they had kangaroos and they had zebras and all kinds of things. And we ended up doing the shoot there and capturing scenes with some of the wild animals. So I think that was the emergence of our alter egos for all that were involved in that. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
So part of what I had said to you, and that feels significant in what I've shared in terms of the Crone codes, is that oftentimes we are activating or collecting codes, so to speak, that come
Mm,
from earlier aspects of our journey as women. And I
mm,
know that that sense of identity or connecting with essence or bringing the fullness of who we are really is something, if it were a perfect world, that we all would be stepping into as maidens,
mm.
as young women, as we're
Yeah.
growing up. And I would dare say that the vast majority of us have not done that as maidens, that
Mm,
even through motherhood or
mm,
even later on, stepping into what many call the queen archetype or the crone archetype, we might
mm,
start that, but to fully do it. So
mm,
this
mm,
sense of what you're describing about the
mm,
alter ego and really opening to and developing these
mm,
parts or dimensions of who we are in a fleshed out way. It feels like
mm,
such an important and vital thing to
mm.
consider for all of us, no matter what age we are.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. Very well said. Mm,
Yes, and just to be crystal clear, in case anyone has any doubt, you work in the style realm.
mhm.
It,
Yeah, yeah.
Stylegasm is your brand, but you help people both create a sense of style. That's what you do for your
Mm,
clients. And I love this idea of play that you introduce. And I believe, I don't know if it was in your book or if I heard you, maybe it was on social media. I heard you kind of invite people to take a step into exploring their alter ego. Do
mhm.
you remember what I'm talking about? Was it
Mm.
a
I was
social media post or something?
mm. I was wondering if at my book party, just the exercise of looking, because often our alter ego, it's the part of us that we're scared to embrace, or it's some part of us that's been like repressed. For me, it was like stepping into my power. So it was almost this like exaggerated version to pull me
Yeah.
into that place.
I think it could be there, but I think it was a social media post because I remember
Oh,
you talking
oh,
about like buying something, whether it was like a pair of shoes or an outfit, and
oh,
going out into the world and almost like having a
yeah.
play date with yourself, taking
Yeah.
out into.
I think that might have been in our Casey Baker community where I was like,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, which is something we share. Yes, I think you're right about that. But can you do like a short little piece
Yeah.
if someone wanted to experiment or explore
Mhm.
just based on this conversation?
Mhm.
Is there
Mm.
an assignment or a suggestion or?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm going to be having a quiz coming out. Usually there's four, I would say usually there's like four different areas that falls into like what is repressed and where you would go to. So I have four different archetypes. One is the bougie bitch. So that's the woman who just owns that she loves luxury and charges money and just wants space to rest and just, yeah, abundance. There's the artista. So the part that wants to just create and be original and do eccentric creations. There's like the dominatrix energy, which is what I had stepped into about like being in power and owning your sexuality. And then there's the gypsy, which is the part that it's like the globetrotter who's just wants
Mhm.
to travel the world and experience and just like shape shift into different cultures. So I would first say kind of sitting with what is the part of you that is repressed, and that could be a framework. And then what would make it an extension of you? Yeah, it can be kind of fun whether you want to create a name around it or just kind of thinking through, sometimes it's also like who are you jealous of? Who out there do you have envy? And actually, instead of villainizing them or that feeling, realizing that's some part of you that wants to come out and be embraced.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I know that you had mentioned earlier when you were discussing the whole stepping into the dominatrix in the first place, the issues around shame and pain and transmuting of that. And
Hmm.
I know you've also been, for example, to death doula school, and
Hmm.
I know you've done significant work around shame and healing shame in your own life.
Hmm.
So, would you be willing to share some of that journey with us? Because I
Yeah, I could,
think it's like
yeah.
two
Hmm.
sides of the coin in a way, or two dimensions of you that feel
Mm.
so potent.
Mm. Thank you. Yes, I think for all women, it's a journey, right? I think we kind of we're in these we grow up and there's so many things that feel shameful about being a woman in our world. So we probably ask about I have a story called the Shame Drawer story and my experience becoming a young woman. So I grew up in a household and a community where it was very stigmatized to have your period. I knew I was going to get a period. I got my period when I was 12, and my family members were more like late bloomers. So I basically got my period, and it felt too shameful to ask for help around it. So basically, I lived through what's called period poverty, where I didn't have enough supplies. And I had to beg, borrow, and steal. And very often, yeah, I would like, take some from actually our school or I was a swimmer, our racket club would leave out extra tampons, or I would, sometimes come up with an elaborate plan about why I needed to go, like, let's go buy makeup at CVS with my friends or take some with friends. And to be honest, most of the time I didn't have enough supplies. And where really just the symbology of the shame of becoming a woman and feeling I needed to hide this. And why it's called the shame drawer story is because we had like an open trash can in our bathroom and we had three dogs that would get into things. So I knew I couldn't just leave my trash in the bathroom. So for 4 years, I stuffed my trash into the top of my dresser drawer. And just to say, like, I didn't want to be doing this, and how it just, it began to smell and it became something, just having to hide. But, it's like trauma. The worse that it gets, the more you felt the need to cover it up. And when I got my driver's license, the first place I went was to go to buy myself tampons and buy myself supplies. Again, I was a competitive swimmer, so I was in the water 6 days of the week. So it was always stressful dealing with that. And then soon after I went and dumped the drawer, all the trash from the drawer went to the dump and never told anyone what happened for over 15 years. And kind of like remembered it, but like didn't want to remember it sort of thing. And then, even though I wanted to get rid of the drawer, I continued to create metaphorical shame drawers in my life. I experienced sexual abuse. My first experiences of sexual were rape and, struggles in, my business. Oh, really? Wow. I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's really common. Really, really common. Yeah. That's the thing that's really, I think, moved me so much is like me sharing, you realize like I mean, they say statistically it's like 1 in 5, but I think it's more than that for sure. It's very, very common. Yeah. And then so realizing that the place that I felt so much shame with this whole story and this whole pattern of shame drawer has been exactly my work and helping women dump their shame drawers, and how just the incredible irony of it all is all these years later for me to literally be in women's closets and to see what is, whether it's a physical or a metaphorical example, like demonstration of their shame and what they need to move through to be free as well. And I think, like shame is like, I would say shame towards like an ever evolving practice, like I'm working through my own shame drawers. I mean, I think we have like our big traumas and stuff, but what is it that overcoming to get to the next level? And I think shame, it can be, shame drawer can be an example of something that happened to us, this traumatic, but I think it can also be the place of our actual desires, like my desire was to be more in my power and to wear edgier things. And yeah, and so that's really so much of the cornerstone stone of my work. And for me, even just putting this story out there to really, just because I was known for a long time as a fashion stylist, it's like, no, I don't just like pick out clothes for people. This is so much deeper than that.
Yes, the power of the transformation. And I know
Mm.
you actually did a photo shoot
Hmm.
with the
Yeah.
dresser.
Yeah. I did, yeah, gosh, it was last summer. It was right before the story came out, and I invited my high school art teacher, who was also my photography teacher. We're friends. He's amazing. And so I had told him the story, and it's crazy because he knew me then. And so he ended up shooting it, and then I brought one of my girlfriends, and it was like really healing because she was like, "When you were 13, what kind of music did you like?" So we put on TLC and Britney Spears and just really reclaim that pain. And then even later going to Nicaragua, because I had a lot of my story with the rape and the abuse was with the Nicaraguan guy, and going there for the first time. So I think, these things that can feel so heavy can also there's also something so empowering about making art with it and just like reclaiming reclaiming our power through it.
Yes, and you brought the shame drawer with you
Mm,
to your book launch party, which I
I
attended.
did. Yes, yes.
Yes, and so it has become this sacred medicine. It's
Hmm.
turned from this thing to be ashamed of, it's turned into a real vehicle for your medicine, it
Hmm.
seems to me.
Yeah. Definitely, yes.
And
Mm,
I will say, I believe some of the script or narrative is a little bit different, but I believe it is that young 12 teenager age person within me, dimension of me that had such a strong response to you. Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
So touching. Yeah. Yeah, and there's such a connection because that is like when we were becoming a woman, and then the crone when we complete our cycle, and that connection between those two women.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely
Mm,
right. I have found, and I don't know what's true for anyone else, but for me, the maiden, and particularly that stepping into womanhood, has felt, as you said, just so linked and significant.
hmm.
And
Hmm.
part of it is, I believe, because as we enter this stage of life, we're often reimagining the next chapter for ourselves. So there is a new form of becoming that's happening.
Hmm. Hmm.
For many people, they've been raising children or perhaps in a specific career, and there is often this reinvention that occurs.
Mm,
So
mm.
interestingly, today is my daughter's 21st birthday.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
And in so many ways, I feel like she and I are on this parallel process because
Wow.
she's at school and she, as you know, is quite a creative and artist in her
Mm,
own right. And this, for me, the podcasting and doing this kind of work is part of my medium for creative expression. Although I
mm,
am drawn to other forms, as well. So there's something fun about being in that state of reinvention.
Yeah. Oh, so cool.
And
So
that's so much of what you do with people
yeah, yeah.
through style. And I would love it if you could share about what's coming up next year. You have this big,
Mm.
exciting offer that you're doing, which I think is so awesome and spectacular.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I'm leading this. It's called the Reclamation Experiences. One of them, I have a couple of them coming up. One is going to be taking people to Iceland. And I'm actually friends with a woman who puts on this fashion week that's there called Erlendur, which means foreigner. And they bring, it's not just Icelandic designers, they bring designers from around the world and all people from literally every continent come to be a part of this event. And so I'm going to be bringing people to be part of the fashion show, and they actually get to walk the runway as models. And they really love celebrating, yeah, women. You don't have to, I mean, I did it this year and I'm like definitely the shortest. I'm 5'3", but they want people of all different shapes and sizes and beauty. So and helping people prepare for that moment of walking the runway and just owning. And they have such interesting, such a mix of like very interesting designers. It's just not your straight and narrow. Like I actually wore this designer who makes the like shibari rope dresses. She sells them in like she sells a lot of them in like at a nudist retreat in Hawaii. Anyways,
Did you say nudist retreat?
retreat. Yeah, she sells that's where a lot of her business comes from. I mean, mine, I was covered. I mean, you could see my underwear,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I have another friend who makes these like bubble dresses. They have some really interesting. So we would, the person would get paired up with some kind of really interesting designer. And then, I mean, you've been to Iceland a few times, the most amazing dramatic landscapes, so that we would go and do a photo shoot out in the lands and have your own reclamation experience. So that'll be coming up next, should be around like next September. They're still finalizing the date. And actually, one thing I love that you had shared is the fashion show is at this whale museum where they have these massive, I don't know if they're like whale replicas, but
Bones or is it the
yeah,
bones or is it actual, does it look like the whale? I haven't been
that's a good
to the,
question. I wish I knew for sure. I think some of them are like replicas, but I think there is some real things there as well.
Mhm.
Um, but you're just so interesting. You were telling me the significance of whale medicine. Can you tell me again what whale medicine?
Yeah, so whales are considered the record keeper. And so they are so much a call to remember who we are
Mm.
in the
Mm.
deepest way. And I will share that actually on my trip to one of my trips to Iceland, I went to a place called Diamond Beach, which I shared the
Mm.
photos with you. Gorgeous aquamarine glacier chunks that are massive on this volcanic black
Mm.
beach. And when I was walking there, I came upon a vertebrae of a whale that had washed.
Wow.
Yes. So I felt like I was having my own whale medicine experience there.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yes.
Absolutely incredible. Wow. Love that. Yes, I'll have the Iceland, and then I'm also going to be doing Paris. I actually used to live in Paris. That was really a huge beginning of my career in fashion was going and living in Paris. And I did a immersion school there. And Paris is like, oh man, Paris is it's just like synonymous with style and luxury. And I mean, that was the best style education I ever had was in
Mhm.
Paris. And just that French way of how they, just the designers and the quality and even just like the shops, it's such a different experience than than American malls and sale culture. They really have that like refinement and adornment, appreciation. And so yeah, I'm planning to go take people to Paris as well in the spring. And then I'm also looking to cook up another one. I have a few different options what that could be. So it will not be Europe. So we'll do one that's non-Europe.
Excellent. Maybe South or Central America or no?
Maybe, yeah, actually, well, that there is one that is a possibility. Yeah, there's like a few different places considering between. Yeah.
Good. So if someone were interested in that kind of thing, they could follow you or
Yeah, they can just yeah follow me. I'll get the page set up soon, but you can message me and get on the wait list.
perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. And I will have all of your links as you create them. You're welcome to send them, and I will keep updating the
Amazing.
show notes. So
Yeah.
depending on when someone's listening to this, this comes
Yeah.
out in October, but yeah, if they're listening down the road, the link should be there in the show notes.
Yes. So,
So you mentioned reclamation, and we've talked about your shame drawer metamorphosis and how you work with people. And I know that those are components of your book,
mhm.
which is
Yay,
up
right
here on
there.
my shelf, Radiance. There is a process that you outline in the book, and my guess is that is in part what you're taking people through.
Hmm.
I know there's a shedding and
Hmm.
is it glow up?
Well, yes.
And then the reclamation.
Yes.
So would love to just have you share about that whole arc and what
Mm,
those components are like and what you've
mm.
learned or if there are any stories
Yeah, for
related.
sure. Well, the shedding is, and that's very connected with the shame drawer story. And shed is the longest chapter of the three, and that's for good reason, because that's where all the work is, honestly. It's like, what is it that we need to work through, let go of? That's also when I help people do a purge in their closet and to really let go and have more space to bring in who they really are. And as you read the book, you'll hear stories of well, both metaphors and work that I've done with clients and also myself because I was writing the book, going through the journey myself through each of the three steps. And I packed up my life and moved out to LA. And so I was writing the book, and so I had to purge things. And then a few months later, well, the fires happened in LA as I got settled and decided to embrace this nomadic. So it was time to purge again. And then it's interesting. And even now, I went through another purge because I'm now like, okay, I'm tired of being nomadic. I'm figuring out where I'm going to live. But really, just that process of how significant it is when all the things we hold on to, so common. I see with women that a girlfriend or someone like gives them something and they're like, oh, it doesn't work for me. So, here's this sweater. And then you hold on to this sweater that's you don't really like, but then you feel guilty. Or maybe your mother-in-law gave it to you. I've had, or someone gave it to you. Or maybe you spent a lot of money on it, and just all the things of holding on to something that's not really a fit and just how free it is, or things from old identities, things have from years or decades ago that just feel like old you. And I think that's something I've very much felt in the last year. I've had so much growth and change, and there's things even from a year ago where I'm like, I'm not that person anymore. When I put in like there are some things I think we can kind of play with and reinvent, but sometimes something is just old energy and just making space for that. So yeah, shedding is, and just to say also, I have a friend who's a really amazing professional organizer who also works on like forgiveness work. So I do this work as well. I
Mm,
think there's a certain level you can do to some point on your own, but really through those deeper layers and just how much like that can just be that reflection of the things in our closets and the things that
mm,
we need to let go of so that we can get to our next level. So next is the glow up, and that's when we're like free from all that energy of the past, and we say, okay, it's time to dial it up. It's time to shop. It's time to go out and create like who we really are. In the book part of it, it's also about like the manifestation of your partner as well, but there's all these metaphors throughout it, and just finding in a sense of style, like finding the things that are really a match to who you are and make you feel like help you really step into this next version of yourself in the really empowered way. I actually did that recently. I got this is like leather dress that I got, and it's like I put this on and it feels like I don't know, I like love leather. It like feels so good. I have this belt that I got as well.
ooh,
Yeah, so like what are the things that are going to activate us? Because I can tell you when I put on this, I feel very different than something from years ago, or something that just was never quite right, So really evaluating like what's really a fit for me. And I'd rather help someone curate like a very small, intentional, but just feels so incredibly good than a whole wardrobe of things that just aren't quite right. So like what's going to activate you? And then the reclamation is where we really go out into the world, and that's where the journeys that I take people on, and also like really capturing that through photography. And like for me that's one of the funnest things in the whole world is yeah, being witnessed, and that transformational power of like I mean every time I do a photo shoot it like opens up this new chapter in my life and my expression as a woman. And there's just so much power of that when you really kind of go through it in this way of style and storytelling and
Mm.
making a declaration of who you are.
Mm. I'm just breathing that in, and I'm breathing in. I think there is something about the quality of play
Mm, mm,
that you bring to it that sounds so appealing to me. I could go down a whole rabbit hole, but as someone who isn't, it's such a push-pull for me personally, because on the one hand, I'm a Leo, and so there is
mm,
this desire to be seen. But on the other hand, I know just from my human design that
mm,
I'm most comfortable not being seen, kind of this
mm,
giving the point of view from my vantage point. So I've
mm,
always felt this push-pull, whether it's around being photographed. And
mm,
so there's something that just feels so appealing about
mm,
like the way that you do it,
yeah.
that it would give a permission to let go. And particularly if I've had, like I had a photo shoot of professional photographs that did not did not go well,
Oh, oh no, that's the worst. I've been there.
that I needed a redo, which the photographer was very graceful and did do a redo. But and I think frankly, as I reflect on it, it does go into those roots of the maiden or the younger self, because
Mm,
there's so much about wanting to, whether it's wanting to be beautiful or wanting to be attractive or wanting to kind of put our best foot forward, but not always knowing. Like for many
mm,
of us, we didn't get holding around that, or we
mm,
didn't
yeah.
get mentorship or loving, or in the
Mm,
old tribal days of the whole red tent and just the
mm,
adornment and the
mm,
receiving of the beauty of who you are. So
mm,
when I hear what you're describing, that's what I go to. Like that's part of what you offer. You're not
mm,
just styling someone for a performative or for a
mm,
whatever, the power suit. You're really speaking to their essence and inviting that out and
mm,
giving them the opportunity to be seen.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it really struck me what you said that there's the part of you that's a Leo. And yeah, Leos are like the ones to be seen, and then also the part of you with human design that it's almost like you're maybe not the front and center per se, but that's also what makes it perfect with being like a podcast. Like that's like the perfect combination because you're here, but then you also help bring the spotlight to your guest, but then you're not trying to compete with them and take but I think we all, no matter, I mean, even if no matter what someone does, whether they work an office job, whether they're more introvert, extrovert. I think we all deserve to be seen for who we really are. It doesn't mean that we need to that everyone is going to have a TV show or is going to want the spotlight in that way. But I think I mean ultimately it starts with us, right? Like us being able to really step out as who we are and like honor ourselves and honor those parts of us. And yeah, I so related with what you said. And, as young women, we really don't have these initiations. And like one that was actually really, I feel challenging for me was makeup because, yeah, like I have a sister who's like 15 months older than me. And we were given, our uncle like gave us these big makeup sets, but like we didn't really know how to use them. And I remember my sister would do these like crazy makeup and then, parent were like, why are you wearing that? And I don't know, but it was like it's kind of like the same as everything, same with peer, like everything, like no one knows what they're doing. And you're supposed to just know. And I end up actually, there's an amazing makeup artist that I really love, and she had like a makeup course a few years ago, and I took that course to like really learn and just realize like all the stuff that was there of like I didn't know, you don't really know what you're doing, and sometimes it doesn't turn out great, and so all the fear just how you're just like randomly kind of collect information and maybe trying to just learn stuff on YouTube or whatever. And I think with style, it's a very similar thing at times I do with clients of just like helping them walk into that path of expressing themselves and not contriving it. It's not like you have to wear these colors or you can only wear these silhouettes. It's a lot of figuring out what's actually in tune with them. And often you realize that you often know a lot more. Often people are like instinctually it's just all the ways we're like conditioned, and all the fears that we have that we don't know what we're doing. But very often, just with a little guidance and just that kind of mentoring kind of energy that they are able
Yeah.
to really like sit in who they really are.
Yes, yes. And there was something I was going to say. I was remembering, well, it feels like you also really help plug people into their sense of self-trust, or there's something
Mhm.
about letting go of the rules in a way,
Yeah.
like the rules of what it means to be a woman of a certain age and how you're supposed to
Mhm.
dress, or what it means to be
Mhm.
a businesswoman and how you're supposed to dress.
Mhm.
Like you help both shed some of that as well
Mhm.
as just what's the purity of someone's essence and what does that look like being
Mhm.
expressed through
Yeah.
clothing. And I'm remembering the story of the red trench coat that
Oh,
you
yeah.
share. Can you share that story and then we'll start
Sure.
to wrap this up?
Yeah, I had this beautiful client that I worked with a few years ago. We worked together virtually. Most of my clients, we pretty much all work together virtually, and then some I'll fly to see them and they'll see me, we'll work together, but so much of it's just done, we can do virtually. So she lived in Portland at the time. We met through a networking thing, and I was on her podcast, and she just was like, gosh, this seems so fun to work with you. And she's like, I'm going to do it. And she had such like an upbeat, joyful personality, but like her clothes, she was probably, I don't know if she was in her 40s, 50s, something, but her clothes were what she called like the ill-fitting suit. They were passable. They're kind of like what people expect you to wear, but they didn't really like excite her. And she had all these stories about why she didn't dress because she was plus size and her age when she's on a budget and like all these things. But we worked together and we're like, well, let's just open up to this magical realm, which is the case when you come into my field. And I also, bring in energy work and you were bringing kind of this like manifestation. And she had this vision of her wearing this like red trench coat because she wanted to write this detective series, and she just something about a red trench coat would get her into character. And so I'm going away like looking for red trench coats online and stuff. And then one day she walked into a thrift store and she found a brand new tag still on trench coat in her size. And she showed up the next session wearing this trench coat, and we just screamed, just like, and it was so much more than the trench coat, it's that whole process of what I take people through. You get clear on what you want and just clear out all the stuff. I mean, we had done so much. Like she lived in this room, and it was like cramped, and we're just helping her let go of stuff, let go of stuff, and just trusting the right stuff is going to show up. First, you need to create space for it. And it's such an amazing. So she was gonna move out of this room that she rented, and then like her parents called her and like, hey, we're buying this investment property. It's this penthouse overlooking the city. Would you like to live there? And this was like very left field. Like this was, and so yeah, she ended up moving there, and just amazing what can transpire when you get in tune with yourself. And what I love about it too is, and it's talking in the book, when she hired me, she told one of her friends, I'm gonna work with a stylist. And her friend was like, but you dress fine. Why would you work with a stylist? Shouldn't you hire someone to help you with your business? And she was just like, but she just filed that desire. And then in the end, look at like getting what she really wanted in the end instead of learning about, I don't know, whatever you're supposed to do in your business, get serious, it's like,
Mm,
oh, we're such powerful. Like
mm.
when we get into play, oh my gosh, so much can happen so magically.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that was the other piece I was thinking of, that you really do open people to that in the field,
Mhm.
the magic and it's almost like this spiritual scavenger hunt, so to speak, where
Yeah.
you're playing with the divine around what it is that you need or want from a style
Yeah.
perspective, that it shows up in some fun ways.
Totally.
So we're going to bring this to a close for today. I don't know if there's anything, you check in, see if there's anything else that feels important for you to name or share.
I would just say that there's kind of this duality in my work in a
Mhm.
way. It's like I'm both a death doula and super playful, and it doesn't always seem like it would go together, but it really does. And just to say that the process of becoming who you really are and like that shed, it can be, I just want to honor like it can feel like so much, that like that letting go. I've worked with a number of people, whether they've gone through a divorce or they're through a major grief process or just life turning out different than what they thought. And just to honor that, just to honor that journey and not to diminish and the work I think all the Crohn's walk through, is yeah, just to honor all those on the path through that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to grab your book here. Ah, and so it's radiant.
Yeah.
So why are you still single? So it does have a lot related to the journey of finding the love of your life. However, as someone who is already partnered, I am receiving so much from it, just stylistically, and from this journey of what Jenn has described, the shedding, the glow up, and the reclamation. There are definitely pieces. So if you're interested in kind of a first step of connecting with Jenn and her work, that would certainly be a great way to start. We will have, as I said, all the ways you can connect with her in the show notes, and she will be offering some bonus content as well. So if you would like to go deeper into that, you can do it through the bonus content membership, which is also linked in the show notes. So I want to thank you, Jenn,
Thank
for,
you.
yeah, for being here and for so generously sharing, and just the work that you do, being a voice and a presence for all of it,
Mm,
for the transmutation of shame, for the calling women back to their truest essence and expression, and for the reintroducing of the magic and the play.
mm. Beautifully said. Thank you so much. It's such a great conversation.
Ah, thank you. And I want to thank you, our dear listener, for being with us. And just to remind you that whether you are making ripples or making big waves, that you are loved and you are loved. Thank you for joining us today on the Crone Codes podcast. If you appreciated what was shared, please rate, review, subscribe, and comment wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to go deeper into the Crone Codes with curated bonus content created just for you, join our Crone Codes members community on Substack and receive prompts, tools, and resources for your wise woman journey.